I would like to invite and welcome rather Sudhanshu Vats, who is the Deputy Managing Director at Pidilite Industries. He is the Chief Guest of the PrintWeek Award. And Sudhanshu is, he might be embarrassed, but he's a very, very special person. He's a high performance achiever, a marathon runner. He's been my neighbor for many years, so I've known him personally, and I think wherever he's gone, he's really excelled. I think maybe it comes from all that running and energy which you unbottle at work. Sudhanshu is an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad. He's had a career spanning 30 years across FMCG and media sectors. He's spent 8 years as the MD and Group CEO of Viacom 18, and he's profitably grew the company by 3 times. He spent about 20 years at Unilever in sales, marketing, and general management roles, and his last role in Unilever was the VP in laundry at South Asia and the global VP of the Radiant brand. During his long tenure at Unilever, he's shaped many popular household brands, notably Lipton, Vim, Wheel, Surf, Rin, Lifebuoy. Wow, that's quite a list, Sudhanshu. So, and there are many hats that Sudhanshu wears. He's also the, apart from being Deputy Managing Director of Pidilite, he, as I said, is an avid runner and I think takes part in lots of marathons. So with this, Sudhanshu, I'd like to welcome you on stage.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed my pleasure to be here. A big thank you to Hormoz. I think he embarrassed me, but you know, Hormoz and I go long back. And I remember the first time for an auto car event in Castrol. So between my 20 years at Levers, I did a short stint at Castrol as well. And that's when I first got to meet Hormoz, and then we were neighbors eventually. And I think, you know, and that time I was not being able to run a simulated car, Hormoz, if you remember very well. So, you know, and you must be thinking, what the hell is he doing here? But I think, you know, my association with Hormoz goes for it. And thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. I also want to thank Sudhanva, who was kind enough to personally come and meet me and extend the invitation. Thank you to Haymarket, PrintWeek, I think, for this opportunity. As I was thinking about the event today evening and reflecting on what I would talk about, the first question which came to my mind is that, am I even, entitled to or even ready to speak to this august audience on packaging? And what do I know about packaging? So as I was reflecting on this thought, you know, and I was talking to my colleagues, Ashok and Rajesh and others from Pidilite, you know, I said, yeah, one thing I can definitely talk and I can take credit for is one, of course, as Hormoz told you, that I've been associated at the other end and looking at packaging, especially if you look at tea, where, you know, paperboard and all that, and especially, you know, Lipton and other pieces. So there is that piece of work which somewhat allows me to be able to speak. But then I quickly quipped and said that, you know, incidentally, and Hormoz did not mention that, but that was because the last part in a short stint, I ran SL Propack, erstwhile SL Propack, what is now called EPL Limited, for a short period as Managing Director and CEO after after Ashok ji had built that company beautifully. So I think, you know, so I said, I can do that. But Ashok, my colleague Ashok Narayan was quick to quip that you are speaking at PrintWeek. The focus here is on paper and paperboard and printing, and not on flexible packaging. So don't talk. So your years at flexible packaging have no meaning here. So I said, okay, that's true. But then one thing which he added, and which I think is indeed true, is that we as Pidilite, and representing Pidilite here, I do have the right to talk, because when it comes to paper, paperboard and all that, I think we are strong in adhesives. We have played a role for many years, and I'm very confident we'll continue to play that role. With that, let me talk to you a little bit about what I understand of the packaging industry in general, and then a few trends. Some of them are known to you, but I think through my understanding, and then share some of my thoughts with the August gathering. First and foremost, I think it's a very exciting space. Hormoz, you are right. It is arguably more exciting, if not equally exciting, as auto car or media, which I did for some time. So I think, it's a $1 trillion global industry, growing in mid-single digits. So it's one of the faster growing global industries with scale. I think that's the first point, which is important for all of us to remember, and it's relevant for India as we play the role. Indian industry is about $50 to $60 billion, and I'm now taking total packaging. I'm taking the liberty of taking total packaging. But Indian industry is growing in mid-teens. And I think so therefore, it's growing at almost 3x the pace of what the world is growing. And I think to that extent, to all the ladies and gentlemen sitting in this room, the companies that you built, and what you have in future is really, really promising. And I think this promise increases multifold as we look into the future, because India will play a bigger role in the years to come. And there are a few key pointers in that direction. I think the first pointer is that the growth of consumption and in the Indian consumer story. And I think what got played out very well, especially during COVID as well. So the growth of e-commerce is a very big driver in this space. Growth of modern trade as we go forward, consumption and branded goods growing. Growth in food industry is another very interesting thing, and how packaged food industry and is going to grow in India. I'm a firm believer that Indian food industry will mature and grow, because we are one of the unique cultures who have so much to offer when it comes to food. And I think most of it is underexploited within the country. It has remained in our kitchens, and it is clearly underexploited when you look at it from a global stage. So I think, therefore, there is a huge potential from some of these drivers, which are domestic. But I think the other important driver is the PLI, which has now been announced by the government of India, and therefore the basically ability to play the global stage a bit better as we go forward. And lastly, but more recently, I think the growth driver, which will propel the Indian packaging industry, is also the China Plus One sourcing, which is being looked at. And I think China Plus One in many sectors, but I would say even in packaging sector, is a very important piece when it comes to Indian packaging industry, and that's fantastic news. So from the point of view of growth, our ability to grow and to continue to maintain these mid-teens, anywhere around 15% kind of CAGRs, I think is very, very interesting phenomena. I think for many of us sitting in the room, it's a very interesting industry from another point of view. I think it's an industry which caters to SMEs, but at the same time is also begging for consolidation. So if you look at overall industry, I think, whether you look at it global level or Indian level, if you look at global examples, especially if I can see some numbers from there, the $1 trillion industry, the top 20 players contribute to only about 12 to 15%, which is totally atypical of any industry. So I think that's the other piece where there is room for, I think, growth, and as we go forward, to bring that forward. Having said that, with the customization that is needed, the role for SMEs in this space, and I think will continue to remain and will be a very important factor as we go forward. So I think it's an interesting industry where there is room for consolidation, room for growing big, but at the same time, there's a lot of room for small and medium enterprises and for them to keep coming in. I think the other thing I wanted to talk about are a few things that are shaping and are going to shape the future. And while we were talking, Hormoz and I, just before this, and some of us on the sides of this conference, I think sustainability, in my opinion, is a very, very strong driver for this industry. And I believe sustainability is a big opportunity, because I personally feel that I don't think we have to worry about how it will affect the formats and as we go forward. I think what we have to worry about is how do we ensure circularity? Because I think my view is, in very simple terms, I think the role we've got to play is to ensure zero to minimal landfill and ocean fill. And I think as we do that, how do we ensure circularity? How do we ensure that we are able to deliver on that piece? It's going to become very important, and therefore the 3 R's of reduce, reuse, and recycle are going to be important. I think the good news is when you talk of paper, in any case, paper is classic bio in that sense. I think the point is, but as other formats which come in, how do you make sure that they are there? How do you have monomaterials as we go forward? Or how do you have innovation which can aid monomaterials wherever there are multi-layers and all that? So I think sustainability is very important. And I think that's one thing which I'm sure all of you are aware, but I want to leave you with. And I think it's an important thrust for all of us to continue to build on that. And I believe there were conversations around sustainability in the afternoon today as the conference started, and very rightly so. I think those are very important conversations. I think the second piece, the second big trend I want to talk about is a trend around digital and technology. There is no industry which can escape that, and I think it is true for packaging as well. So whether it is about use of technology for tracing, whether it is about automation, whether it's about digital in terms of in future making packaging intelligent, I think the role of digital and technology will be important. So that's the second big thing, with which I want to so the two big trends which I wanted to talk about are around the area of sustainability and on digital and technology. And lastly, let me leave you with 3 key terms which are now being very often used when it comes to packaging. I think, we are talking about active packaging, I think especially from the point of view of food. Therefore, how do we have packaging which interacts with products and allows to enhance the benefits or the quality of the product? And in case of food, it largely tends to be shelf life and freshness. But I think this is an area which will continue to grow, which is active packaging. And I think it's a fantastic news because packaging and product have to go together and the role they play in the brand. In the past, somehow packaging has been seen to be subservient to product. You develop a product and then you develop packaging and so on and so forth. But to me, the two have to go hand in hand. And I think that's a very important piece, and that's great news for all of us in the room here. I think the second one is around connected packaging. And I think connected packaging is a very important trend. And it's an important trend that will play out to sustainability. So it's like making sure that the packaging can be, it enhances traceability. It will enhance how do you sort of look at how the things are moving. So the entire piece around connected packaging, use of technology in this space, and I think some of it is not new. RFID has been there for quite some time. But I think, but the use of technology and the use of that things where the ability to trace it with this thing is going to grow, because I think the future world would demand that almost all packaging is traceable, because that's the only way you will be able to drive sustainability. And finally, intelligent packaging. I think, IoT, so my young colleague was reminding me that I believe there are products which are likely to come in where you have a box, and let's say it's a Milton box or whatever, where you have some product available. And in the future, you have a conversation with the box and say, I want to have lunch at 1 o'clock. And this is at 12:45 in the afternoon. And the box is able to heat up your lunch and serve it to you. So I think the role of IoT may be a bit into the future, but I think intelligent packaging is another important one. With that, thank you very much for your audience and your patience. I would like to also take this opportunity to congratulate everybody who's participated in the various awards which are there. So first of all, a big round of applause to everyone who's participated. I would also like to take the opportunity to, in advance, give big congratulations to the winners. I think very deservedly so. This is a very innovative space, innovative sector, and it needs to continue to do that. So big round of applause for the winners as well. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And here's wishing you a great evening and a lovely dinner. Thank you. Thank you.